Hello, welcome to episode 3 of Rise and Hoop. So, thank you if you've been joining us from episode 1 to episode 3. We've been doing this, and this is your first time. Welcome. You'll be here for some good BYU talk, and we'll get to the most important thing here shortly. But Ryan, how are things going for you? I guess we last recording this on Thursday night. I guess we last recorded Monday night. So, how's life?
Life's good. Right before the Arizona State game, I thought about your oven story after I had my own
Yeah.
food faux pas, I guess you could call it.
Did you put your food in
I,
the fridge like I did instead of the oven? Or
I'm pretty sure what I did is worse. We can see what people think, but I got done working out and then showered and everything right before the game started. Put together a protein shake like in one of those blender bottle things, and
yeah,
went to sit down in the living room, and like the game had been going for about 5 minutes, so I was going to catch up on it.
yeah.
And I think it was right. I can't remember who hit like the first three or something. Maybe it was, did Nell hit the first three of the game?
Yeah, Trevin
I
did.
think.
Yeah.
So I think saw that and was like, okay, cool. Like kind of felt like we're picking up where we left off. And then I went to start shaking the protein shake, and the milk and protein just went everywhere because I had it close
was
the lid.
was it on carpet or like hardwood?
Carpet. We have a
Oh,
cloth. We have a cloth couch,
oh,
which was
brutal.
not like in hindsight, even with kids, was just not the best decision
Yeah,
in general. And so got it all. Like it was all over me, the couch. Not too much on the rug, so we were okay there. But
rug's
then I
good at
spent the
least.
next. I just paused the game and spent like the first 15 minutes of the game cleaning everything up. So that was like I was like it felt good. Like finally sitting down, just thought, oh, this is. I literally words literally went through my mind like this feels so good, and I'm so happy that I can just sit down and relax. And then
Yeah,
like 30 seconds later, I just had
right.
protein shake all over
Yeah,
myself. So
yeah. It's okay. You missed like the best part of the game where BYU couldn't miss shots, but
yeah,
other than that,
I
at least you saw the missed free throws. Like at least you fortunately saw
tuned
that.
in for the good stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome to see those missed front ends of the 101.
I caught yeah, and I caught a lot of Trevor Best too, so
Yeah,
that was good. We could talk
yeah,
about him later too.
yeah. But I guess before we, get into the Arizona State game, I think our audience would be remiss if we didn't start with bubble talk, specifically Big
Oh
Ten
yeah,
tournament bubble talk. Just the story in college basketball, no one's talking about the 18 team Big Ten. The 18 team Big Ten. It's like that is a lot of teams. It's like, okay, let's pare it down. So and a normal person would be like, hey, if you're 17 and 18, you're not going to win. So let's do maybe a 16 team tournament. 'Cause, 16 brackets normal. But no, the Big Ten decided to do a 15 team tournament. Like I need a I need to Google research why the Big Ten did a 15 team tournament. It's the story in college basketball no one's talking about. But
there
I
might be some like corruption involved in that or so. Like I don't know, like I,
I
maybe a
think that
conspiracy theory.
I think the SEC is involved. Like it's the
Yeah, they
SEC, there's
have to be.
16 teams. Like hey, like I think they paid them. Like hey, we have a 16 team Big Ten. Like you guys are a little bit below us. You got to do 15 teams. I think Greg Sankey is involved. Maybe the college football playoff committee with Gary Barta, like a little committee head. Like he's at
Could
Iowa.
be.
He and now Iowa's on the bubble. I
Well,
I
the Big
mean.
Ten bubble.
Yeah, the Big Ten bubble. So, the big bubble matchup tomorrow, Friday, Northwestern Iowa. So, Northwestern Iowa both 6-11. There's a four-way tie for 13th, and that fourth team, 16th, is out. So, the loser of this game could be out. So, who do you think you got, Northwestern or Iowa?
Well, when you told me about the bubble matchup and that
Yeah,
Iowa was in it, my ignorance showed, and I just assumed. Well, I said, well, this game's going to be 50-54 because Iowa's in it, and so they must just be a defensive juggernaut. To
yeah,
which you informed me that they're actually an offensive juggernaut that can't play defense. So
yeah.
makes
Literally
sense.
opposite, the same as football, but just the opposite.
Yeah, just flip it.
Yeah,
There must be some kind of a deal going on there with like the basketball or collegiate gods in Iowa, something like that, where they're like, yeah, you got to pick one or the other, and you can only have one for each sport. So so I'll go with Iowa. I'll ride with the Hawkeyes.
I think we'll go with the Hawkeyes too. Yeah, I think their offense, carries them, and I think they stay on the right side of the bubble. Northwestern, it could be tough for them. They could be on the wrong side of the bubble, the Big Ten bubble. So
it's not where you want to be.
We'll keep people informed next time. Like, I'm expecting our reviews to go from 1,000 to 15,000. Just the Big Ten, because no one's covering this except us. Like, it's Greg Sankey.
Hard-hitting journalism.
Greg Sankey doesn't want people to talk about the Big Ten, its bubble, but we're doing it. So we'll keep people. I know people would like us to go 45 minutes about it, but we'll keep it shorter this time.
Interesting. I will say, interesting team that's near there is USC is right near the cut line too. So be kind of fun. Be kind of fun to see USC left out of their first Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, Washington's they're in last place. They're probably left out of their first Big Ten tournament. So maybe the Pac-12. Maybe the Pac-12 was involved. Maybe the Pac-12 was involved in it. They imploded the Pac-12. And now Washington, USC, outside the bubble. Just saying. Greg Sankey and Pac-12, I think, is the genesis behind the 15-team Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, we definitely need to look into this a little bit more, get some tinfoil hats. But
we'll keep everyone informed. We'll look into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess some of the boring stuff, which now all of our 14,000 Big Ten viewers are going to shut off the feed now.
Yeah, if you're here for the Big Ten talk, you can stop watching now.
Yeah.
Tune out.
Yeah. But so I guess BYU, since this is a BYU podcast, now obviously at Arizona State, Wednesday night. So oftentimes BYU plays Tuesday. It's kind of a little different. I'm glad it was on Wednesday because I'm priest-corm advisor, and our youth nights are on Tuesday. So I've been kind of had a balance this year. Like we've had some canceled. That we had winter break last week, or a couple weeks ago. BYU played Kansas, so that was nice. Was able to watch last week. Sometimes I'm on Pacific time, so I'm usually able to watch most of the game, and sometimes it conflicts a little bit. So I was happy this was on Wednesday. It didn't conflict with youth night. I'd been youth night the night before. It was a combined activity. The 12 and 13 young woman class was in charge. The youth played some sardines. It was a good night, so I was able to be there for that and then concentrate in the BYU game. Right
on and off the field, man.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of Reed's 5-game winning streak because I've been going to youth night.
There you go.
But
that is nice that your youth night's on Tuesday. That won't interfere with March Madness.
Yeah,
like zero interference there. So.
Yeah,
but it might interfere with the NIT and the CBI. So
yeah, that's true. And the BYU was in the first four, though, the first 4 game would be on Tuesday in Dayton. But fortunately, it looks like BYU's played themselves off of that.
We're playing out of that.
Yeah, thankful.
Again, I'm saying, Rob, maybe we need to attribute the success that we've been having to you, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been going to youth night during basketball season, so doing my best, doing my part. Okay, we're 8.5 minutes in. Well, I guess we'll start talking about the real stuff.
We're ready now.
I mean, we were talking about the real stuff, but so yeah, I mean, BYU's 5th win in a row. And I was looking like this is BYU's first 5-game winning streak in conference since 2020, and obviously BYU had lots of years in the WCC. that was Marks Pope's first season. That was with the Yoli Childs, TJ Haas, Jake Toulson team that unfortunately didn't get a chance to play an NCAA tournament. That was the last time BYU won 5 games in conference in a row. Last year, BYU, the Big 12, they didn't have more than a 2-game winning streak in conference. They had a 4-game winning streak earlier this season in January, but first 5-game winning streak. And then going into the game, I mean, Arizona State was just kind of a mess. Like their leading scorer, BJ Freeman, got kicked off the team over the weekend. Their best NBA prospect, Jaden Quayton, he got hurt Sunday versus Kansas State. Before the game, one of the other guards, Alston, I can't remember his first name, got sick. So Arizona had 6 scholarship players, only 5 players that they had normally played. So honestly, the starting lineup, though, they played, those 5 guys are pretty good. I thought as the game went along, they kind of would just fall apart. But they, to their credit, I mean, they Bobby Hurley coached them well. Like that 5 guys they have playing are talented. They kept it in, but I mean, just BYU's offense is just, playing so well right now. Like they're in Big 12 play. BYU's ranked like this number 2 in ranks in terms of KenPom efficiency behind Houston, who's like ranked the number 1 team in the country in terms of offense. Like Houston's just very efficient, but BYU's offense the last couple weeks is 3 straight games over 90 points, and against good defenses too. Like Kansas is a top 5 defense according to KenPom. Arizona is a top 20 defense in the country. Even Arizona State this year has been a top 50 defense. So it's not like BYU's doing this against scrubs. Like they're doing this against legitimate teams, coaches, and that have good cultures and prioritize defense. And it just BYU's Kevin Young talked about it a little bit. I think I can remember his post game, or I was watching some clips of the coaches show he did today, which was Thursday. He just mentioned BYU's spacing is just so much better. With that, it just gives Yegor and Dallin and with Cabo to operate the pick and roll really well, to find open shooters. And BYU, they're getting really good looks. Like a part of it, I think, I mean, maybe Arizona State may have had some defensive breakdowns, but it just BYU's manufacturing really good looks. They're getting good looks for Trevenel, Richie Saunders, and those guys. It's just, I'm like, when they're open, it's like I'm very confident they're going to make it. Like the last person BYU player I thought that was that confident I was going to make them their open is probably Alex Barcelo and Jake Toulson. And those players, like they can make contested threes, especially Richie's been really good moving coming off screens. But when they're open, like it's just been automatic. And then Mag's been good. Dallin Hall's been hitting threes. So just BYU, they're just like Kevin Young's arguably like one of the best basketball offensive minds in the world, like NBA, college, you name it. And that team, it's taken a little while, but the offense has been so good. Defense has been solid, good enough. Not lockdown defense, but good enough. But it's just super impressive what BYU's offense is doing. And again, Arizona State was shorthanded, but again, it was a quad 1 win. It was on the road, and going on the road's never easy, but BYU's offense just super impressive. So, I mean, there was things we kind of nitpick. We talk about the free throw shooting, and you probably would like the defense to do a little bit better, but it's just offense on fire right now.
100%. I feel like BYU's, I wonder how many times I've managed to hit these splits, but the first 50, 40, 54
Classic.
splits in terms of, so 50% from, or no, what was it? We were 50. Okay, here we go. Sorry. 54% from the field, 50% from 3, and 40% from the free throw line.
Yeah,
so
the 50-40-40 split.
Yeah. so like unreal efficiency in terms of like live basketball play, and then struggling a little bit at the line. But I mean, even looking at if we had hit all of our 3 free throws, we would have broken 100. So I mean, it's like, to your point, I think the game felt a little closer than it really was. Arizona State did play tough, and like there's definitely like multiple points for that last 5 minutes or so where I think teams would have just kind of been like, this game is over.
Yeah.
And Arizona State didn't, to their credit, felt like they didn't do that, and they continued to keep the game, hustle and make the game competitive at least. You knew at BYU had the game in hand with about 3 to 4 minutes left, or you felt like, okay, we should be able to ride this out and be okay. But I mean, even at the end, right, nail it. I think it was best hit a 3 at the very end. And so you're not looking at like a 13-point win, you're looking at a 10-point win, which is like still good, but you kind of, as you get closer to single digits, you feel like it's a more competitive game just by nature. But I feel like BYU, we left 9 points at the stripe, and then, Arizona State just kept battling even once the game was in hand to make it look a little bit closer than it was. But I don't think at any point it was just like, this game is for sure done, until it was about 3-4 minutes left in the game.
Yeah.
But I felt confident in just the way BYU is playing, just that we're getting enough on the defensive side, and the offense was relatively consistent. When you mentioned earlier how I missed the best, so I just kind of caught up and watched it, but I remember looking at the time, and I think we had 26 points with about 5 minutes into the game. And I just remember being like, okay, so you're on pace for like 100 points in the quarter at that point, something close to that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't keep that up, but it was like very interesting to see. We went on a pretty big drought there actually for about 8 or 9 minutes. As I just remember being like, that's a lot of points for so early in the game. And we've kind of done that. We've had some games where we started and we just kind of hit a few shots.
Yeah.
So you can see that there was some of that, the potential of the team in terms of when the shots are flying, the shots are hitting, balances out over the course of the game. But yeah, kind of felt like BYU left a lot to be desired in terms of some scoring opportunities. Arizona State played tough, made it a little bit closer than it really was, in my opinion.
Yeah, and honestly, the win was, not much bad to say about BYU's offense, except, the free throw shooting was obviously a big, topic, and I was just kind of looking at fans' reaction on Twitter, and I tweeted out a take that I think most people kind of find unpopular, but kind of explain my reasoning. Like, fans, we worry about free throw shooting more than coaches. Like, and I'm not, like, free throw shooting is obviously important because it's points and it's easy points to get. Like, you're wide open. Like, I'm not minimizing, especially situationally, free throw shooting is super important. Like, the Utah game there was many reasons BYU lost that game. But if Trevin Nell didn't miss that front end, at least would have gone to another overtime. If you hit both, BYU would have won. So situationally, especially late games, it's very important. Like, BYU closed out the Baylor one with free throws. BYU beat Arizona with free throws. There's time situation that BYU's been good at free throws, but the Utah game obviously sticks out. That TCU game, BYU is just bad overall free throws. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying free throws aren't important, but in terms of, honestly, my importance, like, free throws are down the list. Like, things like shot quality is more important. Rebounding is more important. Defense is more important. Limiting turnovers, like, those are things I think about before free throws, because there are things that you could coach, and, like, yeah, you could coach free throws, but it's different than, like, coaching junior jazz or church ball than versus coaching, because on, like, normal fans, and I'm not saying I'm like some basketball savant smart, like, I'm a normal fan, I just follow BYU close. Like, we don't know how to scheme basketball. Like, we don't know how to scheme an offense. We don't know what Spain pick and roll is. Like, we don't know, like, what wedging is on offensive rebound. Like, we don't know these things. Like, those are things, like, you scheme and practice. Like, Kevin Young's not gonna have a practice like you shoot hour in free throws. And there's probably a lot of people saying, like, oh, that's what he should do because that's what BYU should get better. Like, guys work on their free throws. Like, they have lots of free throws in practice, and maybe even shooting more free throws, but just get it more in their minds. It's like these guys don't have the skill, because if you were in practice, they'd hit 90% of their free throws. So maybe you could talk about it. It's a mental thing, whatever it may be. But that's what I mean when coaches, like, guys need to hit their free throws. Like, after the Utah game, Kevin Young said, yeah, Trevin, if you would bang both those free throws in, we would have won. So it's important, but it's not, coaches, like, don't scheme how to make free throws and, like, things like that. Like, those other things are more important, because even if you look at the top free throw shooting teams, like Colorado's top 5 in the Big 12 in free throw shooting, they're dead last in offense. Like, right. BYU's 13th in the Big 12 in free throw shooting. And I was looking, so Bart Torvik has his ratings. It's one of the 7 metrics the NCAA committee uses. And since February 10th, BYU is the best number 1 offense in college basketball. And that's despite having some of these poor free throw shooting. So it's obviously important. Those are free points you could get. It's very important, especially situationally. And I know fans have said, well, it's going to cost BYU a game into March. And maybe it is. But, I mean, those other things are more important. BYU's playing where, like, getting good spacing, getting good offense, like, all those are the inputs, like rebounding the ball, like defending the paint well, limiting turnovers. Like, those are things that will win you basketball games for just making free throws, because you could be Colorado and great. Like, Colorado, you're top 5 in free throw shooting. Okay, you're the worst team in the Big 12. Like, BYU is, like, all those things. So free throws are important. If BYU does way better to their free throws, they'll be even better, because I was in BYU shooting 68, 69% from the line this year, which is 13th. So Arizona's the number 1 team in the Big 12. They shoot 79%, really good. Utah shoots 63%, really bad. Also, BYU, they get to the line a decent amount, but it's not a super big part of the game.
Offense.
Yeah, like if they were like a super physical team, tried to draw a lot of fouls, like it'd be even more important. So,
well, I mean, we shoot for about half of our shots are 3-pointers, right? I mean, that's about kind of
BYU
what Kevin Young shoots for. So it's just, you're not going to take the same volume of free throws as some teams.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Obviously, it's important, and that was an anomaly bad, like it was especially bad free throw shooting. They shot 40%, and if they missed multiple front ends and one-on-ones, that's multiple other additional points that you missed. So if BYU continues to shoot 40% from the free throw line, that's obviously especially bad. But if BYU could at least shoot close to their average of 70%, be solid and situationally late in games, like that's when free throw shooting's really important. Because if you miss shots, any kind of shot at the beginning of the game, you can make it up towards the end. Like if you miss a free throw at the end, you can't really make it up. So I'm not going to keep talking in circles, but that's kind of what I mean. Like, free throw shooting is obviously important, but us as fans, like we can't conceptualize what it means to run an offense, to run a defense. Like we don't know the nuances of basketball. Free throw shooting that's something everybody understands because everybody could shoot a free throw. You don't need a scheme. So us as fans, it's like, that's the easy thing. I know exactly how to fix that. You make it. Like us as fans, we don't exactly know how to run Spain pick and roll and how to run horns flex action up top. Like we don't know literally don't know any of this means. Like we're like Kevin Young and like all the coaches, like they've forgot more in the last 6 hours of the day than any basketball we know in our life. So that's why those things, because it's just that requires such high basketball acumen that wins you games. I'm not saying free throw shooting doesn't win you games because it's like, oh, free throw shooting wins you games. Yes, it does. But it's just, that's the easiest to point to as fans. Like we can't talk about the nuances of basketball. So it's the easy talking point for fans. Whereas the other stuff, that's why it's like lower down in my list of prioritization of things that wins you basketball games. So that's my little spiel about free throw shooting.
I like that. With free throws, it tends to be, I feel like, just when I've watched, just watching BYU in general, like, feels like whatever your team kind of is that in a season. Sometimes there's some marginal improvement or some better consistency, but, it's just kind of you enter the season and guys are going to be more or less where they are in terms of free throw percentage. Guys do get better. Even as like a Mavericks fan watching Luka, he used to be pretty bad at free throws. And
Luka as a Maverick fan? Like, what team did you? I have some news for you, actually, Ryan.
Don't tell me. I knew I was opening a can of worms when I brought that up. I could barely. I was cheering for him over the Mavericks the other night. If I'm being honest, like I'm like. I can't even. How can I not? But
at least you have the Cowboys right now.
Yeah. Like he was not a great free throw shooter, but then he over time he turned into a really good shooter, even at the pro level. Right, multiple years of just muscle memory, repetition, get used to the moments too. Like you said, situationally. Hitting, like Richie hitting those free throws in the game against Arizona is really different than somebody getting fouled in the first 5 minutes of a game, no matter what the score is. It's like there's almost zero pressure there. So there's a lot that goes into it, and I'm with you. I think as you were even saying that, I kind of thought of Yegor, how, again, didn't have a great offensive game from a shooting perspective, which is another really easy thing as a fan, right? To like, make your 3-pointers or finish your layups or, that kind of mentality. I fall into that all the time.
Yeah. Which is not to say it's not important, but
again, not to say it's not important, but it's very easy to like Yegor is very easy in this game to kind of see, 1 for 6, 2 points, like didn't have a good game. If you don't look at the 10 in the assist column, you're missing a massive piece of his game and how he facilitated our offense throughout the game. There was some passes. He had a feed under the basket to, I can't remember if it was to Keba or to Foose. It was kind of like an outside bounce pass, like through the side of the defense that hit right. He caught it out in front of him, right in front of the basket, and put it in real easy. But like his passing is really good, man. Like,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize like until the end of the game, like they were like, yeah, he's up to 10 assists. He was almost close to his season high, I think.
Yeah.
So it's kind of another example, I think, just as you were saying that it's easy to see maybe the weakness of the team or the weakness of one player when, there's a lot of other things that, for example, I know Yegor gets a lot of beef, and I think people kind of discount his NBA potential just because of how he can struggle with some of his shooting at times. But he puts on other things that are like, a full display of high level talent. So it's easy to like see something that a player or a team is not doing well and kind of be like, you got to fix that. You got to be better at that. Yes, that's like fair point. But it's also kind of that's what I love about the way the team is even built around Yegor when he's out there. He's got shooters everywhere. He does a really good job of navigating the space on the court. And then as soon as, especially Nell and Saunders, as soon as those guys have some daylight, he does a really good job of finding them. And I mean, I think that is probably a big reason why both of them are shooting pretty well from three. Like they're both good shot makers on their own right, but Yegor's doing a lot to help them and help the team with his passing too.
Yeah, like one of the top reasons BYU's offense has been so well, just because what Yegor's been doing passing. Like, so before these last, call it 4 games, the first game Yegor had a season high assists. He had 11 assists versus Central Arkansas, and then before the Kansas State game, in Big 12 play, he had a few games with 7 assists. He had one game with 8 assists. That was the Oklahoma State win. But in 3 of the last 4 games, he has 2 games with 8 assists, and then last game he had 10 assists. So his passing is just really unlocking BYU. Like the spacing BYU has is so good. Guys are hitting shots. Like Mawat Mag, teams have to account for him more now. Like people are kind of leaving him open. It's like, hey, he's shooting close to 40% from 3 in Big 12 play.
Can't leave him open.
That's another guy. Trey Stewart started to hit some shots when he goes in. Dawson Baker hit shot. Dallin Hall hit shots. Obviously you have Richie Trevin. Then you're going to bring in Boshkovich off the bench. Like that's a stretch 5. And then you have probably the best pure passer in college basketball in Yegor, able to deliver them. So just with all that, the spacing BYU's been able to get with Kevin Young, their understanding his offense, and then Yegor and Dallin, just they've been so good operating that. Again, the scoring, if Yegor hit more shots, that takes BYU's offense to even another level, but it is already at extremely high level right now. And there's been some turnovers you don't like, but with how much Yegor handles the ball and with the high degree of difficulty these passes are, you're going to have some turnovers. And some of them are, I think, on the players. I can think of one last night. A lot of them are dead ball turnovers, which if you're going to have a turnover, that's the better one to have. I mean, that was the one thing not great last night. Arizona State, like people talk about the free throw shooting, but Arizona State did have 20 points off turnovers last night. So BYU's does have to clean up some of those turnover issues, but a lot of Yegor's turnovers, like, he's just trying to be aggressive on a pass. I think there was one, Mawat Mag was in the corner. He came up a little bit. Yegor thought he was going to stay in the corner, and the ball went out of bounds. So stuff like that where Yegor sees it and throws it to him in the gut, and there's just maybe they're not on the same page. But to your point, at Yegor, I mean, obviously you want him to hit more shots, cut down those turnovers a little bit, but his passing has been such a huge part of the offense just going to even another additional level right now.
I'm with you. Only one other player we haven't really talked a ton about him, but I mean, Richie, we found out, I think, after our last episode that he was player of the week, like nationally, like national player of the week, which is incredible.
Big deal.
Haven't had that since Jimmer, right? I mean,
I don't know. I guess I don't memorize every single. I mean, I'm maybe like.
We've had some players
maybe
that
Yoli's
maybe had a little
one,
run. Yeah, I was going to say maybe
mean,
Yoli or somebody, but I mean, still, right? That's a big deal. Like with 300 some odd basketball teams having the player of. I thought it was funny on the broadcast. They just kept pumping up like Big 12 Player of the Week, Big 12 Player of the Week.
It's like who's National Player of the Week?
He's the National Player of the Week. Like I sure hope he was also the Big 12 Player of the Week.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
They're like no, it's I don't even know, somebody else, but.
Yeah, Trevor Best.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think he got some of his first minutes in our game. They were saying, but
yeah, he cooked. But
Yeah, he was. He's cooking.
yeah.
But for Richie, yeah, I mean, it really is crazy, like the run that he's been on, because this is now 3 consecutive 20-point games, I believe.
Yeah. He's been good the whole season, and he's been like just
Totally.
especially on a heater now.
Yeah, he was really good. He was kind of became something I remember noticing early on in the season with some of our struggles was you could kind of tell this team was really banking on potentially having a player or two that you're like, hey, we know this guy's going to get us 20 points a night. Or these 2 guys, we're going to know that we can get about 30 points from these 2 guys. And in my mind, I kind of assumed between Yegor and Catchings, you kind of thought, hey, we've got some points with these guys just because those were some of the, especially Catchings shot making as was advertised. It was like, that's kind of what you thought you would be getting there. And I'm not saying that is necessarily the game plan or like the way that the system is built, but it did feel like we were just lacking a clear and defined, this is the guy that you're going to that's going to get you that consistent 20, high teens, 20 points a night. College basketball is a lot different, right, than even the NBA in terms of like what that scoring threshold that's meaningful. Like 20 points is a ton in college. And it feels like Richie kind of answered that call even early in the conference schedule. It was pretty quick where he just like, you kind of were like, this is becoming Richie's team in the way, in terms of he can do everything. Like he's maybe not the best ball handler, but he can finish in traffic and finish at the rim really well. He can shoot the ball. He can defend. He hustles. Like he kind of a do-it-all guy, and he kind of turned from just glue guy to like, oh, glue guy that actually can like score from range and score at the hoop, which is a pretty deadly combination. So it's been cool to see how he's always been really good, like you said, and even last season, early this season, but he's just continued to like elevate his game this entire conference schedule, it feels like.
Yeah. No, super impressive. I mean, he's the second leading scorer in Big 12 play. Keyshawn Hall for UCF is number 1. UCF runs the fastest tempo, so he gets so many opportunities, but there's lots of good players in the Big 12. Like you think you can feature NBA guys like BJ Edgecombe for Baylor, like lots of other guys. Richie Saunders is number 2 in scoring. A month ago, like Richie Saunders he's been consistent all through Big 12 play. I thought he's probably second or third team all Big 12. Like he's going to be most improved player. Like he's got that locked up. But a month ago, I thought he was going to be third team, maybe second team. But after what he's doing and what other guys are doing, I think honestly he'll be first team all Big 12. Like I was trying to think in my mind who will be first team. Like he'll probably get JT Toppin for Texas Tech. You'll probably get Jawan Roberts for Houston. And there's guys before, like I would have thought Javon Small for West Virginia. I thought he was a lock, but he hasn't been quite as good the last month. And there's other guys for Texas Tech, maybe Chance McMillan, Darian Williams, Iowa State, a couple of their guards. But there's been some injuries. Like Richie's played all year. He's second in the Big 12 in scoring. He's first in 3-point shooting, top 5 in 3-pointers made per game. Like he hustles on defense. I think he's going to be first team all Big 12, which is super impressive. Last year, BYU had no players on the first, second, or third team. Jaxon Robinson was 6th man of the year, but was honorable mention. But I think Richie's going to be first team all Big 12, which is super impressive. And I just look at what other guys are doing in the Big 12. I think he deserves it. And I think coaches are voting on it and hoping they recognize him for that. So it's 3 games down the stretch to finish, but just incredible. And we'll talk about, obviously, after the season ends, we'll talk about what we think guys will do, whatnot. But, I mean, he gets lots of NBA scouts watching him because of how many guys are watching Yegor, and he's shooting the ball really good. So, I mean, he'll have the opportunity. I mean, I'm not a scout. I mean, his age, like, he doesn't have maybe quite the length, like the ball handling teams want. But I think he'll find a way in the NBA. What's into the second round as a 2-way player. But if I had to pick right now, I think he comes back next year. Like BYU will pay him honestly like $1 million in NIL. Like that's something like a returning first team all Big 12 player.
Well worth the investment.
Yeah, like so he'll make
to
more.
Pair him with AJ. I mean, like
exactly.
That's the literal definition of the player that you want. Someone that can catch and shoot 3,
like
catch in traffic, finish well at the rim.
You have AJ, and then like your number 2 is the first team all Big 12 player. Last year guy that teams game plan for most, it's like, oh, wait, the clamping for AJ. Then, oh, we have the best shooter in the country here in Richie Saunders, who averages 20 points a game and is the Energizer Bunny. It's like, that's, man, I mean, we could talk about next year. That's a whole another story. But I mean, BYU's basketball NIL is one of the best in the country. He I'm not saying $1 million to $1 million. Like, I'm pretty familiar, like, with kind of what guys get. Like, he'd get around $1 million, which is more than he would make in the NBA next year. I mean, obviously, maybe he thinks, hey, this is maybe the highest my stock's ever been. But there's lots of reasons for him to come back. Like, he's like 23. I mean, he's already old. What's 24 if you're 24 years old? Like, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then, like, the fact, like, he'll have the full year to have scouts. Like, it took him, like, scouts weren't really, he wasn't on the radar at the beginning of the year. Now, like, you have AJ DeBonsa coming in, so you have that many scouts right at the beginning, and then he'll have a full year.
You'll probably have a scout from every team. Exactly. At a lot of games.
Yeah,
right?
he'll have a full year for another year for scouts to fall in love with him. All it takes is one team to really fall in love with him, and then he loves BYU too. So he's a BYU. He grew up going to BYU basketball games. So the fact he could be part of a historic BYU team that has national championship aspirations.
That's hard to say no to.
He'll be rich. He'll be a millionaire, and then he gets. And that's the fact too.
Also nice.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean, because I mean, we could pay $1 million to do this podcast. I guess we'll do it. You know, the Royal Blues hooking us up. Shout out Royal Blue. But also, like, I mean, this is like down the list, but to have the connection with AJ DeBonsa for your whole life, who could be like the face of the NBA, like, that's not a bad thing. Like,
not a bad thing.
You know, just like, hey, hook me with some of your, you know, signature shoe line, or, but I mean,
the Richie threes by Nike.
Yeah, the Richie threes. Yeah,
they're just Converse. Like, just old school white guy basketball shoes.
Yeah, the New Balance with the Kirk Sigs.
I love it.
Yeah, but I mean, that's another story. But I mean, who knows? I'm not in Richie's mind, but I think there's a lot of reasons why I think he will come back to BYU next year.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, he'd be awesome to have him back. In the little stretch of games I've gotten fleeting. I was younger for Jimmer's senior or junior season. I don't remember it. I watched a few games. I didn't get to watch a ton, but you know, I don't think anybody really saw maybe quite the like ascension that he had as a senior. Like, it wasn't going to be
Because at the end of his junior year, like, he was like he declared for the NBA draft and went through kind of like the process. Was kind of on the first, second round bubble and decided to come back, and then, like you said, just media, like, Like, I remember being somewhere like in El Paso back from school for a little bit, because that was our freshman year. That was your freshman year too. Jimmer's senior is my freshman year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that your freshman year too?
Yeah, that was my freshman year.
Yeah. So like,
didn't miss it.
Yeah. We'll throw not like Garrett and other people that were on. Can you imagine being your mission for like the best year of our BYU lives?
You better get so many blessings for doing that. Like,
if you Well, we got blessings because we got to see Jimmer. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're already
blessed. Hopefully, in the next life,
already blessed. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, just how he's been playing. There's that little thought in my mind. I don't know that will necessarily happen, and even if he just could keep playing at this level, like how he did this entire season on average, if he puts that in again next year, that's amazing. But that's kind of something. I mean, we've seen him. He's continued to make jumps. His energy's always been there. His there's like the hustle factor, right? I sent you that meme of there's like the bus meme where like there's the bus, there's the guy sitting looking out each window, and like one guy's just sad looking at like a rock, the face of the mountain, can't see anything. Yeah. The other guy's really happy, like sees all of the scenery as he's going around, and there's kind of a joke of the sad guy's looking, he's like the advanced stat nerd that just looks at the metrics and like, oh, this player's not good because he's inefficient in these ways. And then the other guy that's happy, just that boy nice. Like, and I was telling Robby, we were texting, and that was my immediate thought for Trevor Best, the point guard that came off the bench for Arizona State. Was like, within a couple plays, I was like, that boy nice. Like
Yeah, who's
he
cooking us a
plays.
little bit?
He's cooking a little bit. He's like a mini Richie a little bit, right? With in terms of
Yeah,
energy, he
yeah,
was fast, super fast. But
yeah,
I put
yeah,
Richie in that category too, where like even last season, he's like I think he's my favorite player from last year's team, and he wasn't our best player necessarily, but
yeah.
just like
Nobody
watching
dislikes
him,
Richie. Yeah,
yeah, you just watch him and you're just like, he does a little bit of everything and he plays really hard. Like what else?
yeah,
What else can you ask for?
yeah,
And like he's not bad. He wasn't like he was a good enough shooter, good defender, great energy. But I feel like Richie, and it's just like you love having like white boy with the headband that's just like locking up the other team's best player.
yeah.
It's just
I mean, who doesn't like that?
who doesn't like that, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So it's exciting right now. And I guess looking ahead, we don't need to spend ton of time West Virginia. I think it's pretty straightforward, but obviously rematch of West Virginia. I guess I could share a little sidebar story. So BYU played West Virginia a couple weeks ago. I think I was like on the 11th, so not too long ago. But so people don't know, for my real job, I know people think since we're so professional, they probably think this is our full-time job to do the podcast. Um, but we both have full-time jobs. I work for Amazon. That's why I live in Seattle. I work for Amazon. I oversee the dog food category. So the vendor that sponsors it, they invited us to the Westminster Dog Show in Madison Square Garden, which was the night of the BYU West Virginia game. So I was in a suite in Madison Square Garden watching the most manicured trained dogs in the world. And then like on the side, just trying to pull like on my phone, like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom again. People probably just thought I was just dropping like 3 deuces, like, cause just trying to watch longer clips of the game. I was trying to stay within the window. They didn't think I was like pooping, like trying to stay within the poop window, like reasonable, just like long pee. Cause I was drinking, they were drinking their wines. I was, just sipping Coca-Cola. So that's, he's got caffeine. Yeah, of course, he's got to go. So stay in the long like pee window there. So I got to see the end, fortunately, but that was the least BYU game I've watched this year. I saw the important parts. But that was a tough back and forth game. West Virginia is a tough place to play on the road. They had some injury issues, like Tucker DeVries, like arguably their best player, went out earlier in the year in December. But Javon Smalls, like he's be a first or second team All Big 12 player, one of the best guards. But BYU did a really good job on him last game. I was looking, he only shot 4 shots at 8 points, which is I think his lowest field goal output of the year. So Arizona State, they're really good defensively. They play hard, like they're going to be in the NCAA tournament, but they're honestly not like a super talented team. And it's not to diminish, like they have a new coach who hasn't played really hard. They play really good defense, but outside of Small, they're not great on offense. They have guys that could periodically go off, which is kind of happened to BYU in the first half. But so I think I saw Ken Pom BYU's favored by 8 in this game. I think BYU probably wins somewhere around 10. Like West Virginia wins hard. Like they're not a team that most teams don't blow out. I think they'll keep it competitive, but I think BYU wins it fairly comfortably, and that's not like a blowout, but I think it's probably one of those games like you're not, once again in the second half, you're not like on your seat. That's like BYU's in control, but it's not like never over. One of those type of games. So I think, and the way BYU is playing right now in Provo, it's already sold out game. I think BYU wins. It's not like I said, blow up, but fairly comfortable type game against a West Virginia team that competes really hard. And,
Somewhere in the teens, something like that.
Yeah, like 11 point win or so.
Okay. Every time I see West Virginia and think of basketball, I miss Press Virginia. I want them to bring back Press Virginia. That was my I can never not think of the full like hockey line change of like, all right, here's my next 5 D2 guys that I recruited in, and they're here to play like
4 minutes just like in your in
4
your shorts.
minutes just full bore. I do miss that. I think did they get bounced first round? I know we made a crying Jordan meme about when they lost.
People are in the crying Jordan memes for like 2016 or whatever.
That's dating ourselves there a little bit. But yeah, I mean they're right in that. It's cool to see there's been some separation. When on our first episode, kind of talked about how there was a clear cut top 4 in the Big 12. BYU was the 5th spot, in the standings, so we're top 5, but we're not in that elite top 4 group necessarily.
But
It's
now,
changed since then. Yeah, now I'd say there's a top 5. Your argument is there a top 6, and is it Kansas? Are you putting Kansas in that top elite group right now? Hard to say. We don't necessarily need to go into that, but just looking, West Virginia is right outside that top grouping of double-digit win teams, like double-digit conference win teams. BYU at 5, Kansas at 6, and then West Virginia's in a 3-way tie for that next spot. So they're right in that like meddling group of teams that are still really good. You know, those are the teams that they're 100% capable of beating anybody anywhere. Which, to be fair, like most of the Big 12 is capable of that. But these are teams that you're like, their record's right at 500, so it's not like going into Arizona State. You feel more confident because they've only won 4 conference games. Here, it is a little different. I like you said, I think I like the momentum and I like the home atmosphere. I think it's going to be, I mean, like you mentioned, sold out. I bet it's going to be bonkers just after a really fun road trip and after some big wins. And
West Virginia's a name opponent too. Like it's a name brand. Like it's still fun. Like it's BYU's second year in the Big 12. Like for me at least, like it's not like what it was last year with like all these teams, but there's still like some novelty. It's like it's cool to me still to play West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech on a night in night out basis. It's like to me, I hope to not lose that because we had so much of like just slogging through some of those WCC weeks.
I don't know, man. I missed the 2:00 games at home against Portland.
Yeah,
like
you missed the Firestone Pavilion going to Pepperdine and losing 4 years in a row. Like fond memories. Like just
those, man.
Yeah, just core life memories right there. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is. I think it's something to be careful with because I think it is easy to kind of think. I mean, especially when we are playing at a more elite type of level, you kind of start looking at, well, the big games are, on the road at Arizona State or West Virginia at home. Those aren't the big games right now. The big game coming up is at Iowa State. And it's the reality of it is, like
that's going to decide the 4 seed in all likelihood,
which is exciting. Our positive talk, we put that into
our first episode. Like we thought BYU would lose to Arizona and beat Iowa State. And I still think Iowa State's a better matchup for BYU than Arizona. And Iowa State's very good. But I mean, both teams are tied right now for 4th. Iowa State, do they host or travel to Arizona? I want to say they host.
I think they.
Let me.
They host.
It's at
They
Iowa
host
State,
them.
so they host Arizona. But regardless, even if they lost that, just with tiebreakers, like in all likelihood, next Tuesday's game, it's going to decide who gets the 4 seed, which super
Even if
exciting.
we lost to West Virginia, it would still be the as long as we only lose one game, that's the deciding game for the 4 seed.
Yeah. So I mean, 4 seed obviously gets you double bye. The Big 12 tournament starts on a Tuesday, so that 9 through 16 seeds play on Tuesday, and then 5 through 8, they first game's Wednesday, and then potentially get a double bye all the way Thursday, which at this point just gives BYU additional rest, less likelihood to get injuries. You don't get bounces early, a chance to advance deeper in the Big 12 tournament, which would be really fun. You win that game, you probably play Houston in the semifinals, which is obviously a whole nother animal, but really exciting.
It'd be fun to get that challenge. I'd love to play Houston again just to see where the team
such a different team.
Up.
I mean, that game was January 4th. It was BYU's second game.
Yeah,
it's
on
completely
the road
different team.
Houston.
Yeah, exactly. Yep,
like
at Houston.
You're playing there.
So,
I
think most BYU fans would still expect Houston to win because Houston's they're a machine right now. But it would be fun to see that kind of because if you could, I mean, Houston's a top 5 team in the country. Like, if going to the tournament, like if you could really compete with Houston, say, man, like we could Sweet 16 type of team, and if you beat Houston, it's like that could ratchet you up the seed line, and then your thoughts start getting really dangerous to where you have to be. But yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited. We'll talk about the Iowa State game more next week, hopefully after BYU win versus West Virginia. But I think we're both feeling like not a blowout win because a solid West Virginia team, but being at home, just how BYU's playing. BYU already beat them in Morgantown. I think we feel pretty good BYU winning.
I think so.
Yeah.
I
guess to close, so there was, we talk about scheduling news for next year. Obviously, we were still focused in on this season, but it is exciting to think about next year with AJ Debonsa coming. But there was some news that dropped today from John Rothstein, reported that BYU's tournament next year, which is the ESPN Events Invitational in Orlando, which this year was over Thanksgiving. So the 4 teams, it would be BYU, Dayton, Georgetown, and Miami. And I will say the day before, we do the Given Hell Brigham server. I will say the day before John Rothstein, I reported the same thing on the Given Hell Brigham server that BYU play those 4 teams. So just a little plug to the Given Hell Brigham Discord server. I'll drop little nuggets there before maybe even if I don't put them on Twitter. So I mean that none of those teams, like Miami's awful this year. They'll have a new coach. Dayton's solid. Georgetown, they're top 100 in Ken Palm. So but it's a name brand, even though they haven't been good in 20 years since they had Roy Hibbert, and then obviously back in the day when they had Patrick Ewing and Alonzo Mourning. But so it's not world beater tournament, but it's like good name brand teams. But I mean, BYU does have some good things cooking. For I think I'm excited for next year's non-conference schedule. I mean, BYU's going to open the season against Villanova in Las Vegas, and it's not the Villanova that's won 2 national championships last decade with Jay right there, a little bit down, but it's still Villanova. You know, they have good players.
I mean, that's a more exciting game than anybody we played this season.
Oh, easily non-conference. Yeah.
And in non-conference.
In Vegas, like it'll probably be like could be the premier game the first night of the college basketball season. So that's super exciting. It'll be Monday night.
I think that game will get a lot of
in Vegas, like that'd be super, super exciting. But BYU is working on some really good things for next year. I mean, without revealing too much, like I will say, like, North Carolina is a team BYU's been talking to about doing a 2-game series. So nothing's been finalized. Obviously, it hasn't been announced, and it may fall through. But North Carolina is a team BYU's been talking to, so that would be exciting. BYU's able to play North Carolina next year, and there's some other teams. Like I won't, we'll see what happens, but there's some other really good teams BYU's talking to as well. Like BYU definitely is they're going to improve their non-conference schedule last year. Like Kevin Young is just like, no, like I think he just got bored. Honestly, I think part of it went to prepare themselves, but I mean, he's just like. He came from the NBA. Like, you can imagine, like, night and last night. It's like, I just had to go against Ant, and I just had to go against Jokic, and then your Knicks, Jalen Brunson, and then the Knicks, and then your bad game is against Zion and the Pelicans. Right. And then going to you're playing once a week for 2 months, like, Central Arkansas, like Mississippi Valley State. Level I think he was just bored. He's like, okay, like, enough of that. So. Yeah. It's not like BYU's gonna play. There's still every team you still have some of those bye games, which they're called. But BYU's gonna have some of those. They're talking to some really big teams right now, so it's gonna be exciting what BYU has in the non-conference schedule next year.
That's awesome. That'll be exciting. It'll be nice to have. Yeah, I mean, there was only a hand. It was exciting still just to have new coach, new players, NBA talent. There's a lot of reason to watch the games this season, but it did. There wasn't as much intrigue just in terms of we got to see everybody's like full talent on display for a good stretch there. But I think you could argue too, like the Ole Miss game ended up biting us just because we hadn't been tested. That was our first test all season. Yeah. Definitely a winnable game too. Like we took them to overtime. Yeah. So it's like, and then the Providence blowout, of course, too. Right. Yeah. So I think it'll be good too, just to have like, get some good teams and get some of those. It's good to get losses out against good teams before conference rather than maybe.
If you think what Arizona did, they lost 5 games in non-conference. All of them were quad 1 losses. Mm-hmm. But when you lose to good teams, honestly, like it really doesn't hurt you that much. Like beating a quad good team is way more.
Losses are nothing.
It's like and then Arizona, they're now they're second place in the Big 12. So like. It didn't really hurt him, and arguably maybe prepared him for Big 12 play too.
Yeah, they have a worse record overall than us, but they're ranked above us, and I think they should be just because.
Yeah, they played really good teams.
I mean, they played Duke. They played they played some really good teams. So that's exciting. That's exciting stuff, and that'll make for just like a lot of intrigue throughout the whole season next year. So that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Anything else for today?
No, I think we're good. I know Big Ten fans, if you're still sticking around, don't worry. We'll break down the bubble next. We're getting close to the end, so that bubble it's going to about to pop for some teams.
I think some of them are out already. We'll put who's locked out and who's on the
Yeah,
bubble.
we'll get to
break
the
it down a little
bottom.
bit.
We'll try to get to the bottom of why the Big Ten is doing a 15 team tournament. It's the story nobody's talking about in college basketball. Your national news, honestly, for being. I think Trump has been just overshadowing it. Like that's it's so we need.
I think he's the one trying to bury it. Actually, he's trying to keep it. He's trying to bury that stuff.
Yeah, there's something going on. We'll find out.
I still can't get over like the 5 seed gets such a raw deal there. It's like you're gonna play the 8-9 winner. Like you're not playing the 9 or 13 or what. Like you're definitely.
Is that how it
playing,
shakes out?
I think like kind of how right now like the 8 seed in the Big 12 plays the 12-13, right? Or the 5
They play the
seed
9-16. The 5 team plays the
5 team
12-13.
plays the 12, but in the Big Ten tournament, the 5 seed's playing a guaranteed 8 or 9. So it's like you don't even have that little chance of. So your worst
brutal.
case scenario, your best case scenario is the worst case scenario for the 5 seed in the Big 12.
Yeah.
So it's just like a weird. I don't know. It's minimal, but it's like I noticed that and I was like, that's like it's just a bad deal for them too. Like they're definitely going to play.
It literally makes zero sense.
It makes no sense. We'll get to the bottom of it though, everybody. We promise. We'll do some digging. We'll ask ChatGPT or Gronk or something. And
that'll be our digging. So
that's Don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
That's also how we made our podcast logo. So temporary podcast logo.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we hit an hour, we'll wrap it up. Rise and hoop.
Rise and hoop.